Hey everybody, welcome to Adapter Parish, episode 74, The Italian Job. Before the heist begins, let's talk about our next episode. We had so much fun talking Jane Austen in our Pride and Prejudice three-parter, we decided it was time to take a look at something that's been on our list for a long time, Sense and Sensibility. We'll be talking about the original novel, the 1971 miniseries, the 1981 miniseries, the 1995 movie, and the 2008 let me check my notes. Miniseries. Does Sense and Sensibility need to be a miniseries? Can it just be a movie? Can we do this in one episode? Whether we like it or not, we're going to find out. That's in 2 weeks on Tuesday, September 8th. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections about today's episode that you'd like to hear on the show, remember to email adapterparishcast@gmail.com or tweet at us using the AdaptCast hashtag. If you enjoy the show, we'd love it if you would share that with the world by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. We're also on Patreon at patreon.com/adaptcast. We've got a patron-only community and our bi-weekly bonus show, Adapter Parish Plus, with episodes releasing every Tuesday between episodes of this show. We really hope you check it out. Show notes from this and all other episodes can be found at adapterparishcast.com. And with that, on with the show, Adapter Parish, Episode 74, The Italian Job. Hello and welcome to Adapter Parish, a podcast about adaptation. I'm Jeremy Latour.
And I am Michael Caine.
God damn it. How long were you waiting for that? Did that just come to you?
Yeah.
Like, how soon before you did it did you think to do it?
We're about halfway through the intro music.
Jeez. And just so everyone knows, we do listen to our intro music every single time that we do the show.
To get hyped up.
We got to get into it.
We got to be our own hype man.
So, yeah, I'm Michael Caine.
I'm Michael Caine. And this is The Italian Job. I'm Michael Caine. Thank you.
So are you doing Rob Brydon doing Michael Caine, or are you doing Steve Coogan doing Michael Caine?
Rob Brydon.
Yeah, I feel like when Steve Coogan does Michael Caine, he does it farther up in the nose.
Yeah.
I feel like he does it.
You don't. You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
I was so fucking delighted. Like, let's skip to it for a second. So yes, so The Trip is also great and everyone should watch it. But like, I've seen The Trip so many times, and when they do their Michael Caine impressions, like, I didn't know what you were only supposed to blow the bloody doors off is from. Apparently, if you are into British film, like, that is a big line and is like one of the most famous lines ever. How delighted were you when that happened in this movie?
Well, I was delighted, but not more so than you, because they were doing stuff with a van from like a great distance away. And I turned to you and I said, is this you're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off? And you were like, no.
I didn't say that.
I think you said, I don't know. And then like 2 seconds later, the van blew up and I was like, ew! And then he said it and we were both really excited.
All right. What's your name? What's your name?
I don't know why this is a hard question. It feels like a trick.
What's your name?
Ariel Lipshaw.
And what are we talking about today?
The Italian Job.
Mm-hmm.
The Italian Job.
Yeah, and also the remake entitled
The Italian Job.
And then maybe something else a little bit later too. I say maybe something else, like we've announced what we've done.
Yeah.
Like it's in the intro and everything. Okay, so let's talk about this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It's a question I ask you in so many episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever see any of these before?
No. I was familiar with the minis, but I wasn't totally sure they were from this movie. I think I get The Italian Job mixed up with The French Connection.
Which, I mean, here's the deal.
Neither of which I had seen or have seen.
You'd be forgiven.
That's what I'm saying.
I forgive you for getting these two mixed up.
Thank you.
And my only exposure to it was the 2003 one.
Uh-huh.
Like, I saw that in the theater, and I walked out. You know what I walked out of the theater thinking to myself about that movie?
That was sure a movie.
That was a fun movie. I like that movie. It was fun. I think I was in college. No, I definitely was in college, and I have a story about that actually that I'm going to save for later.
Great.
So we're doing The Italian Job, and then another thing. The other thing was that, so there was the original movie in 1969, and then they remade it in 2003, and then there was a 2012 Bollywood remake called Players, ostensibly of the 2003 one, but I'll just spoil a little bit. There was a little bit of the 1969 one thrown in, too, which was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
We'll get to that
We'll get
one
to it
at the end, but we've got to start at the beginning with 1969's The Italian Job.
The sex year. Every movie made in 1969. Sexy.
It was, I mean, yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, 1969 is, yeah.
It's the sex number.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a sex year.
There's no like punchline to that joke. Like
No.
that joke is all.
A lot of
the
things happened
setup-
in
The
1969.
setup is the punchline.
It was Woodstock. It was the moon landing. Like, it's an important year.
It was pretty important.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And The Italian Job.
I always thought The Summer of Love was 69, but then I found out it was like 67.
Yeah.
I say I found out. I'm not doing the Donald Trump thing where I'm like, I just found this out. No one knew this. No, I mean like years and years and years ago I found it out and was like betrayed by reality.
I'm sorry.
And books and stuff like that.
No. The Summer of Love was earlier than Woodstock, but Woodstock was 69.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about a movie.
Yes.
Can I tell you a little bit about this movie?
Yes.
So this movie was directed by Peter Collinson. He did some other things.
Mhm.
He didn't do a ton of other stuff because it was very sad. He died at 44 from lung cancer.
Oh.
So,
I mean, don't smoke, kids.
yeah, I thought I would bum everyone out. Yeah, don't smoke in the 60s.
Yeah.
If you smoke in the 60s, it's definitely going to turn out badly for you at some point. But Peter Collinson, one thing that I thought was interesting that I found out about him that may come up later is that he attended something called the Actors Orphanage, which was in Surrey.
Mm-hmm.
This is when he was a young man, and he had the chance to write and act in many plays. Do you know who the president was of the orphanage at the time that he was there?
No, who was it?
It was Noel Coward.
Ah.
Noel Coward, who was in this movie.
Star of this movie. Famed playwright and star of this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the president, and he actually became Peter Collinson's godfather
Mhm.
and helped him to obtain jobs in the entertainment industry.
That's great.
Which led to him directing The Italian Job. And then Noel Coward was like, I'm super old and very sick and have a lot of problems, but I'm going to be in your movie.
Uh-huh.
Do you know how he has like an assistant through the whole movie?
Yeah.
That's his partner.
Oh.
And he was there to like help him get through it.
Oh my goodness.
Because he really struggled. He had a big struggle with this movie.
Was he just old and sick? Like,
Old
what
and
was-
frail.
oh,
Old and frail and sick. And I don't think he lasted much longer
Poor guy.
than 1969. I don't have the number in front of me.
Yeah.
It was written by Troy Kennedy Martin. I feel bad because I have no other facts about Troy Kennedy Martin related to his work. I only have one fact about his death.
Okay.
He,
God.
he died at 77 from lung cancer.
Don't smoke, kids.
Really don't smoke. I'll tell you another thing about a person that made this movie, that helped make this movie, that's not an actor.
Mm-hmm.
And I rarely bring up the composer. But I feel
Unless
that
it's John Williams.
Right, but I feel like for this one, it's really appropriate that we bring up the composer because this score, I don't think this is controversial for me to say this. This score fucking slaps. It is Quincy Jones doing a great score,
Mm-hmm.
and I love it, and maybe we'll talk about it in a little bit.
Great.
But if we don't, I wanted to bring it up now. Can I talk about who's in this movie?
Yes.
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine. Noel Coward and some other people.
Yeah.
That's
Well-
the important thing. That's like the thing I was really expecting because I only know the 2003 version before we watched this one, and that one's definitely like an ensemble.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, Mark Wahlberg is the main character and Charlize Theron's there, but like it's an ensemble. This one though is really like, I feel like you could take an ensemble and say, well, I'm going to take one person and elevate them quite a bit, and then we're going to take everyone else and bring them down a few levels and also multiply them by like 4.
Yeah.
There's he is leading a huge group of people
Yes.
on this job that they're doing.
Some might say too big, too large for the job.
I mean, it turns
Turns out fine.
I was gonna. Well, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
We're gonna spoil a whole bunch of stuff. So, do you mind if I just give a quick like personal reaction to this one?
No, but can I say something else about the cast first?
Of course you can.
We were watching the credits, and up in the credits came Stanley Kane, and I looked at you and I was like, "Is that Michael Caine's dad?" And then we kind of shrugged our shoulders, and I was like, "Wait, no, it couldn't be because his name would be Micklewhite." And then you looked him up, and it's Stanley Kane is Michael Caine's brother, who I guess also changed his name to the family alias Kane.
I've never seen a family alias before.
Yeah.
Like.
How interesting.
I just feel like it takes the whole Sheen Estevez thing and it kind of steps it up a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, like it really shows unity. It really shows unity in a way that the Sheen Estevez family never really got it together.
Yeah.
I mean, I really just think they should sit down and make a decision.
Make a decision. I guess Emilio Sheen sounds strange.
Mm-hmm.
Does
Does
but
it?
Charlie Estevez
Sounds fantastic.
that would be fantastic. Emilio Sheen does sound weird because Emilio is a very like Spanish sounding name.
Yeah.
So you would want your last name, I guess, to either differentiate from that wildly or match. I don't know.
I've always thought Estevez was a fantastic name.
Estevez is a good name. It rolls off the tongue.
I don't want to make assumptions about what their decision-making process is. Did you know this? Did you know Michael Keaton's name is not Michael Keaton?
No.
Did you know what his last name is?
No.
It's Douglas.
Oh.
But he couldn't go by Michael Douglas because there was a Michael Douglas.
Yeah, that's so true about a lot of people. I had a instructor in college, now deceased, whose name was Paul Rudd.
That's pretty funny.
And he's the other Paul Rudd. And
I think he would probably claim that Paul Rudd is the other Paul Rudd.
No, he actually wouldn't, because he actually gave up his equity card so that Paul Rudd could be Paul Rudd, because he wasn't really using it at that so the story goes.
Does Paul Rudd know?
He must know. Like, if I ever met Paul Rudd, I would have a really good story to tell him.
You would?
Yeah.
I don't have a good story to tell Paul Rudd.
Yeah. Well, think of one.
I did meet Paul Rudd once.
Apparently, he's a nice guy.
Yeah, he was super nice when I met him. I saw him do a reading of True West.
Yeah.
And he played the Slovenly brother.
Ah.
Yeah. And he was really nice. He signed my program after the show. He was a real cool guy.
Well, anyway, so the story goes. I don't know why I thought of Paul Rudd. He died a number of years ago. My Paul Rudd. The other one's very much alive.
I feel like that
looks great.
I feel like that's a movie. My Paul Rudd.
My Paul Rudd.
But he would be played by Paul Rudd in the movie.
Yeah.
Playing the other Paul Rudd.
They did not resemble each other in any way.
Doesn't matter. Paul Rudd can do anything.
Okay.
He can be charming. He can be a superhero. He can be the two things.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two things that anyone needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who else is fucking charming?
Who?
And a goddamn movie star?
Who's that?
Michael Caine.
That's accurate.
How, like, he didn't do the thing you love. What's the thing that Michael Caine does that you love more than anything that he does?
Maybe he couldn't do it yet when he was this young.
I don't think he was called upon to do it.
I don't think he was called upon to do it. He can bring tears to his eyes in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
Like, he just can bring tears to his eyes. They don't fall. He just goes misty.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of actors can cry. That's like a basic thing. But yeah, he just like, he can cry, I'm sure, but he can almost cry.
Yeah.
Which I
like
feel
no
like
one
is
else.
harder.
Yeah, I think so.
He's not called upon to do it for this one.
No.
And this gets to the thing that I wanted to say right off the bat. I'd never seen it. I didn't know what to expect. I remember reading that it was bad. Like, for whatever reason, I saw a lot of bad reviews. And then I saw it, and I'll just throw this out there. This was a fucking delight, and I loved every minute of it.
It was super fun to watch. Really fun.
Like, just a wonderful movie.
There's not a lot of actual conflict.
No.
Which is I love that kind of movie. I love a movie without conflict and just like things happen.
This is a movie that's like trying to do one thing above all. It's trying to do a tone.
Yeah.
It's trying to do a funny tone, and it doesn't care about characters. It doesn't care about plot. It doesn't care about any of that stuff. It's just like, we just want to build a tone.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, there's a ton of characters, but they don't have, like, you don't know what the relationships are between all the characters. Like, the relationships between the characters are no different. They all have exactly the same relationship, which is, I'm British and I'm doing a job.
Yeah.
Like, that's
in Italy.
That's essentially the motivation for everyone in this movie. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Peter, what am I supposed to do? Well, you're British and you're doing a job. That's your motivation. That's it.
And one sexy lady.
Yeah.
Who has to leave halfway through the job because Michael Caine deems it to be too dangerous. And we were like, oh, something's going to happen to her airplane. It doesn't. She's fine. We never see her again.
What does it say about, like, how we've dealt with decades and decades of tropes growing up through, like, the late 80s, like the 80s and the 90s, late 20th century? Like, we just expect so many things to happen in this movie. And they don't.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying nothing happens. A lot happens in the movie, but it's not necessarily the kind of thing where you would watch it in 2020 and say, I think I know what's going to happen. I think I know what's going to happen. You're probably wrong most of the time.
I mean, I guess, to be fair, at this point now, having watched something like 75 episodes of air crash disasters, I cannot see a plane without assuming it's going to go down.
And it doesn't.
And it doesn't. That's what I'm saying.
But I'm not saying just because of movies, also because of terrible TV shows that you watch.
It's on the Smithsonian Channel that we got for Aerial America, and so I've been watching the other shows.
I'm be interested. Like,
everyone in our Slack group now knows we're obsessed with Aerial America.
100 episodes from now, we're going to look back and we're going to run the numbers and be like, how many times did we mention All About Eve on the show? And we're going to look and we're going to say, like, oh, 117. How many times did we mention Aerial America? 2003. How is that possible? Aerial America is amazing and terrible. It's both of those things at the same time, and we're obsessed with it. And but I want to be clear. When I say your weird, like, depressing aircraft shows are bad, I don't mean they're poorly produced.
No, they're actually very nicely produced. There's good reenactments.
It's just so morbid.
Yeah.
And we're gonna get into that at some point.
I just am convinced I'm gonna die in a plane crash now. Just like I know that's what's gonna happen next time I get on a plane, as my punishment for watching these shows. Anyway, The Italian Job. There's cars in it. There's not a lot of airplanes, mostly cars.
Like, okay, do you want to talk about the plot for a second?
Yeah, let's do it.
So basically the movie opens and Michael Caine, our main character, Charlie Crooker, is released from prison, and it seems that everyone in England knows that he is a criminal and he's going to do a job. Actually, hang on, I got ahead of myself. The movie actually opens with Rossano Brazzi, who we watched in Little Women.
Yep.
He is driving through the Italian mountains, and then the mafia kill him.
Yes.
That's the quick version.
In his, like, fancy car.
Yeah, and I don't want to say any more before I say another thing. Like, if you haven't seen this movie, watch this movie.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you listening, and you're thinking he's not talking to me. No, I am talking to you. I have two questions for you. One, do you like fun movies? Oh, yeah, you do? You do like fun movies? That's cool. That's pretty common. Two, have you seen the original Italian Job? Oh, you haven't? Oh, see it. You definitely see it. It's super fun.
You'll like it.
Yeah. The only people I'm not talking to right now are people who have seen the Italian Job.
Or people that don't like fun movies.
Which is no one. I've known a couple of pretentious people that don't like fun movies.
Yeah.
They just like to sit in a dark room and listen to the Smiths. I don't have anything against the Smiths. That's just what I imagine.
I listened to the Smiths when I was in high school and college.
Did it make you feel feelings? Did it help you articulate the feelings you were already feeling?
No, I just was the kind of thing I felt like I should do, and I never really liked it that much. I did like Elliott Smith. His music's also pretty depressing.
Sure. Now we're just doing stream of consciousness, but like that's fine. That's
fine.
totally fine. I like Italian food personally.
I also do.
Yeah. I also like having a job.
I also do.
Yeah. Which you have one now.
I know. We've now mentioned it several times. It's fine.
I'm sure a lot of people skip Flowers in the Attic because holy shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit. If you haven't listened to it, holy shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I still can't get it out of my head.
We don't need to talk about my job.
So anyway, The Italian Job. We're professional podcasters.
We are. Like, officially.
Yeah.
We have a Patreon.
We have a Patreon. We're real podcasters now. At patreon.com/adaptcast.
This is our worst episode ever.
This is amazing. This is the best episode we've ever done. So this Italian guy dies, and Michael Caine is released from prison. And it turns out they were friends. And this guy sends him like a film strip, and in it he watches it, and a film strip. I'm trying to remember what stuff was called. And so he sends him this movie, and he watches it, and the guy says, "If you're watching this, I'm dead. There is a ton of gold. It is going to be in Italy. You need to get all of it." It is maybe one of the best setups I've ever seen for a crime movie, because normally in a crime movie there is a very clear delineation between people who don't do crimes to each other and people who do crimes to each other. You know, because crime is something where like it's secret and the police are people you don't want to find out about it. I'm talking about the fun crime movies, not like murder movies, that kind of thing. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
In this movie, though,
everyone knows he's going to do this job, and they're all apparently like fine with it.
It's like practically in the newspapers,
Yeah.
like practically all of England. The Queen is basically calling him saying, "We wish you luck on your job." Like that's essentially what's happening in this movie. Everyone's behind it.
Well, you know what it is? I think like the xenophobia of England in the 60s was stronger than their hatred of crime.
Gotcha.
So they're like, "Oh, you're going to go like put one over on our Italian foes?" Because remember, they were the enemy, right? In World War II.
Yeah. They were all fascists.
They want to bring that money back home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's basically what's going on. So he gets out of prison, and like what happens next, I would say doesn't really matter that much because I don't know if you disagree with that.
Well, he bangs the sexy wife of the guy that died. He does do that.
Does he?
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
We've watched 3 movies that are very similar in
well,
some
like
ways.
in 2 of them, he refuses to bang the sexy wife, but in this one, he does bang the sexy wife.
Wait, he doesn't. In the 2003 one, what are you talking about?
Maybe that.
There's no sexy wife.
There's no sexy wife in the
2003 one is very different.
Yeah.
I said it was the same. It's not. It's very, very different. We'll
Anyway.
get to it. So in this one, he's going to do this job, and he starts to assemble his crew, and he needs to be convinced to do the job by Noel Coward.
Yes, who's
by
Mr. Bridger.
Mr. Bridger, who is also in prison, but he's like in charge.
It took me about half the movie to realize he was a prisoner.
Yeah.
Because the guards are extremely deferential to him and give him an exceptional amount of special treatment, and everyone in the prison seems to think that he is in charge of the prison.
Yeah, they're like, I mean, I'll spoil the end. They pull off the Italian job.
Yeah.
And then you go back to the prison, and the entire prison is applauding Mr. Bridger
Yes.
for putting this thing together.
Yes.
So Charlie is his number one guy, but Mr. Bridger is the one who like puts everything in motion.
Yeah.
And he gets Charlie to do it by sending his goons to beat the shit out of Charlie. And like in the next scene, Charlie's fine.
Yeah.
It's a weird movie. It's a weird, fun movie. Do you know what it reminded me of?
What?
It reminded me of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And give me a minute to explain why.
Yeah.
Please, if you will.
I will.
So I hadn't seen it in a really long time. We talked about this in the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory episode, but I hadn't seen it in a really long time. I'd somehow convinced myself that I didn't like it and it wasn't good because I don't know. I just found it too weird. Going back and watching it again, I didn't realize A, how British it was, and B, how the movie's just like vignettes. Like, up until you get to the Chocolate Factory, it's just tons of really funny, independently created sketches and vignettes.
Yeah.
Right? And I found it so charming this time watching it, and I really, really loved it. This is the same kind of thing. Like, every scene feels like a comedy sketch that, yeah, they're tied together because Charlie Croker is the main character and he's in most of them, but he's not much of a character beyond being Michael Caine.
Yeah.
So it felt like Willy Wonka for me.
Yeah.
And I found it delightful.
I liked the part where he had to sneak into the toilet to talk to Mr. Bridger.
It was real funny.
Mr. Bridger apparently gets special toilet treatment time, so he gets escorted to the toilet. Like,
they don't
in
like
his
go
robe.
in with him. They just
No,
let
they
him give
just
him some privacy.
Give him some privacy, like clearly like a special time every day. And he admonishes Michael Caine for interrupting him in the toilet. And I think I wrote down what I think the line is: "You've disrupted my natural rhythms and ruined my health."
He's very Noel Coward.
Yeah, it's great.
So he says we're going to do the job. So like the midpoint of the movie is like we've got the crew together. We're going to go to Italy, and Noel Coward. They all meet in a cemetery, and Noel Coward is there
At a fake funeral.
At a fake funeral.
Yeah.
And Noel Coward is there because, of course, he can leave the prison whenever he wants to.
No, he had to arrange the fake. I'm sorry to contradict you,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I actually think it's funny. He had to arrange the fake funeral in order to get himself out of the prison.
I guess that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, he can leave whenever he wants to. He just has to come up with an excuse
Like, he
for
can
it.
leave for a, quote, doctor's appointment, but his doctor's appointment is like a criminal meeting, and there are doctors there, but they're just like sitting around smoking cigars and drinking whiskey, so Mr. Bridger can like have his criminal meeting.
It's private time.
Yeah.
To read newspapers and do crime.
Yes.
So then they go to Italy,
Yes.
and the whole job happens. And then we get normal job stuff. And so it's basically our guys versus the Italian mafia and kind of no one else. Like, the police don't really have much to do with anything. They're there because they're the ones that are transporting the truck full of gold through the city. Like, there's so many specifics that don't matter with this.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spoil all the jokes, but they go to Italy.
Yeah.
And they steal the gold. I was trying to think of like other things that happen.
They go to Italy. The important thing is that they cause a traffic jam so that they can get the gold on the trucks, get it out of the city, load it onto the minis, and escape in the minis.
Yeah, there's a pretty fantastic sequence that happens in the movie when they first steal the truck, because they get the truck basically into a garage, and like the police know it's in the garage, so they're trying to break in, and Michael Caine is with his crew. They've got the 3 minis, and they've got the truck, and they're just loading all the gold onto it. And it's like, probably, I would say, in the whole movie, especially in the heist section, it's the biggest section that we have where we just stay in one place. And it's tense. It's like genuinely tense. But then they get everything into the Mini Coopers, and then we get one of the best chase scenes I've ever seen.
Like, both famously and deservedly so.
Yes.
Like, we watched it and we were like, oh, yeah, that's famous for a reason. That was great. You know, not like, it's famous and boring.
Yeah, sometimes I watch a thing that's like famous for being something, and I think to myself, yeah, okay, it's that thing. It didn't really do it for me, though.
Yeah.
This did it for me.
It was great.
Can I talk about I want to talk about the car chase for a little bit.
Yeah.
So one of the things that really struck me about the car chase that made it so memorable, how long throughout the car chase, because they go all over the city.
Yeah.
How long through the car chase did we go without actually seeing anyone inside the cars?
Oh, like almost the whole thing. Like, the cars were characters. Like,
Yeah.
the cars were funny, and like the cars themselves become these funny characters. We didn't care about who was driving, really.
You watched like Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote when you were a kid, right?
Sure.
Okay. I don't know if you remember a specific one. Some people might remember this, but there's one scene where they run into like a mine, basically, and they're running through the tunnels, but the way they animated it is they give you like a sky view of it and just show you the maze of the tunnels. And there's two dots, like Pac-Man style, that are going through. And so you know that one is Wile E. Coyote and you know that one is the Roadrunner. So they have character that you're already bringing to it, but the representation of them is literally just a dot on the screen.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt with this.
Yeah.
Where like the Mini Coopers are these solid objects. They have no inherent character whatsoever, but they're behaving with so much character, even when you're like seeing them from great distances. It was delightful.
They were so cute.
Such a delight. Like they do things that are impossible, for one thing. It really is like a cartoon. There was the one where they're all racing on the roof of the giant building.
Yeah.
And like a cop car races up and like loses them. And you as an audience are watching it and going, how is the cop car? How he's lost them, even though they're all on the roof?
Yeah.
And then suddenly they all appear and get past the cop. In reality, he would have been able to see them because he has a different vantage point than you do as an audience.
Yeah.
But
I mean, in reality, they couldn't have driven up on the roof of that building over like some planks, which is what they did.
Well, they did it for real.
Yeah, fair enough.
It was just lucky that those planks were there.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, yes, in real life, the cop wouldn't have lost them because he could see them. But as an audience, your view is what his view is.
Yeah.
That's what they're telling you in this moment. So they do get past him. And we get this great chase scene. And then, yes, finally we get to the point where we can see who's inside the cars. And we see that Michael Caine, there's like two guys in every single car. And like Michael Caine's in one car. And like one of the other guys who has like a name is inside one of the other cars. Like, it doesn't matter that much.
Yeah.
Do you know who's not in one of the cars?
Professor Peach. He's lost.
Benny Hill is in this movie. I personally have never seen Benny Hill in anything other than the Benny Hill Show.
Yeah.
Which I fucked up when I was in middle school. I watched it every single day when I got home from school. Probably because my parents weren't home, and I don't know if I would have been allowed to watch it. In retrospect, I don't know that I should have been allowed to watch it.
He was the least pleasant part of this movie for me. That brand of humor does not age well. It is not good, and it is bad.
I don't know. There was something about Benny Hill. This is how I felt about him in this movie. I found him, just him, and the way he looked and the way he acted compelling and funny, and I loved it. Everything he was doing and all the plot he was involved in and the situations he was involved in were terrible and gross.
Yes.
And I agree with you. They were some of the most upsetting parts of this movie.
Let's just move on. Let's not describe them on our fun podcast. He was obsessed with fat women, and so anytime he saw a fat woman, he would get really distracted and sexually harass her in gross and unpleasant ways.
No, but I feel like this is important to talk about because this is the idea that like we're talking about a time period where you could have a character whose defining characteristic was that they were a pervert.
Yeah.
Because being a pervert is at one point we considered being a pervert a funny thing.
Right.
That was cute and funny and charming and like thank God that we don't think of it that way anymore.
Yeah.
But it really is a fucking time capsule for how we looked at shit like that.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where like
I haven't heard the word pervert in a while.
Right? But is there a better way to describe his character?
It's perfect. I just think it's hilarious.
It's just not a thing I see anymore. And good. But if you want to watch a time capsule that contains a pervert, here's a good old-fashioned funny pervert. And isn't it nice that we have grown beyond that? That's what I'm saying.
We like to hope. We like to think.
But I thought Benny Hill himself, individually, just him, contained within his own body and face was funny. And then everything he did was terrible.
And then there was the guy that was like helping them with the traffic signals. The guy that was like, because there was a soccer match going on between England and Italy. That's why so the town is crowded. The plan is to use computers to cause a traffic jam by messing with the traffic signals and then diverting the armored truck with the gold in it exactly where they want it to go. That's what they do. But they need to have like a man on the ground actually like putting the whatever it is, like magnetic disruptors or something by the actual traffic signal boxes. So they have this just like the most purposely the most obnoxious British person that you can imagine, like tramping through the streets of Italy and like obnoxiously interacting with people and placing these, these devices.
Well, it's the whole idea of like hiding in plain sight,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Just to be more specific, the plan is doing two things. They have to break into where the traffic stuff is all done.
Right.
And Benny Hill's job is to implant something in their computer that's going to allow them to shut down all the traffic signals.
Right.
But they also need all the cameras shut off at all the traffic
Oh,
stops.
right.
So the magnetic thing that the guy is like dropping off at every traffic signal shuts off the camera.
Yes, excuse me. Yes.
So then when we go,
then we got the guy doing the hand gesture in the traffic.
Gestures in Italian. It's the most Italian hand gesture anyone could imagine.
Yeah, it doesn't really translate to podcast form, but you got to trust us. It was amazing.
When you watch it, you will see it. It was great. So like the whole second half of the movie, it's how refreshing is it for you to talk about a piece where we don't really need to talk about character or story and we can just talk about like tone and action?
Yeah, it's great.
I find it freeing. It's really kind of nice. It's like this is like taking a vacation and I'm sitting on the shore and like the waves are gently lapping.
What's a vacation? What's a shore?
Oh, a vacation was something we used to do in the before times.
Oh, okay.
You would like go to fancy places, places you never go to and interact with people you don't normally interact with.
What's a person?
A person is, you see, look at me, see me.
Yeah.
Okay, now think that, but different. That's what people are.
I don't believe you.
They're like, they're the people except different than that. And they do really cool things like own restaurants that you can go into and movie theaters that you can go into.
I know you're not allowed to do that.
And like ferries and planes and buses and stuff like that.
No, you're not allowed to talk. I mean, you see them, but they're different characters. You're not allowed to talk to them. You're only allowed to talk to people that live in your house.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the most unbelievable thing about this movie is that people are able to freely travel between borders, and just go into other countries. It's a fucking delight. I loved it, and if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. Do you want to spoil the end? Because I'm assuming anyone, like, if we haven't made it clear, if you haven't seen this, like, watch it, because especially now, because I think we're about to spoil something kind of big.
Yeah, let's spoil the end. Go.
Which is the end. They get the gold, and it's great because they're in the 3 Mini Coopers, and the way they get the gold is they have to drive them, each Mini Cooper, one by one, into a bus.
Yeah.
At speed on a highway.
Onto like a ramp.
And then they're all on the bus and they have won and they start driving through the mountains. And then and we're listening to the best Quincy Jones song I've ever heard, which is called Get a Bloomin' Move On. Did you know that?
I mean,
what would you have thought the song was called?
The Self-Preservation Society.
Why would you think that?
Because that's the only words in the song.
The only words in the song are that phrase over and over and over again, sung by British men, one of whom was Michael Caine.
It's great.
There's also a song at the beginning, which is super cool, called On Days Like These.
Yeah, but it's just the Italian job.
That's not how it goes.
The Italian job.
It's called On Days Like These. Lyrics by Don Black, friend of the pod, because he wrote the song True Grit for the John Wayne movie True Grit.
Which is also terrible.
It's a terrible song. But Get a Bloomin' Move On is great.
Yes.
So they're driving away to that, and then the worst thing happens. The bus gets stuck on a ledge and is teetering. They're in the mountains, and it is teetering on the edge, and they're all going to fall. And the last 5 minutes of the movie are these dumb criminals.
These dumb idiots.
These dumb idiots in their bus with their gold teetering on the side of a mountain. And do they make it? We don't know.
Literally a cliffhanger.
So a couple things about this. I feel like there are two interesting things to say about this, as you correctly point out, literal cliffhanger. One, there were plans for a sequel, and they were writing it. And apparently you can read the script, and in the script there is a description of what happens after this. So they're able to like get most of the gold, but then they're able to get off because they wait for the gas to run out of the van. It doesn't really matter. Basically, the thing falls down the mountain, and the mafia, who have been their big pursuers this time, except for the couple of policemen, they get the gold back. And so the second movie is all about getting the gold back from the mafia.
Again.
And they never made it. And you know what? That's fine.
It's fine.
Totally fine. Michael Caine, unfortunately, never worked again. So that's the most interesting thing about it. But there's a second interesting thing about it. Do you want to talk about this?
Well, apparently, in 2008, some society, and I didn't read that closely, this is on Wikipedia, held some kind of competition.
Like a scientific society.
Yeah. To
a journal of some sort.
determine the best solution for solving their problem. So basically the bus is dangling over the side of the cliff. The heavy, heavy gold is in the back of the bus, the part that's dangling off the cliff, and all the people are in the front of the bus, and Michael Caine is like making his way to the back to try to push the gold like up, but obviously it's very heavy.
Which is really dumb. What you do is you get everyone to the front of the bus, have one guy jump off, get as many rocks as he can, and keep bringing them into the bus so the way up the front.
Yeah.
That's all you do.
You could do that. Well, maybe you would have won the contest, because basically, as I recall, the parameters were it had to take 30 minutes or less, so you couldn't just like sit there all night, and it could not involve the use of a helicopter.
Now, I read this as well.
Yeah.
And do you want me to tell you how they solved it?
Yeah, my eyes just kind of skimmed over it because it just sounded boring and complicated.
I can't remember because it was boring and complicated. It was so boring. It was like, the thing is, they took it seriously.
Yeah.
And the problem with fiction is that when you take it seriously, sometimes you run the risk of it not being fun anymore.
Yeah.
And the movie is defined by how fun it is, and their solution was defined by how realistic it is.
Yeah.
Which is kind of defeating the point.
You would think.
So I don't remember what they did, and it's not important.
It does not matter.
And I would like to move beyond it. Oh my God, see this movie. Super fun. Starring, say it with me now,
Michael Caine.
Caine. You were only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
She was only 16 years old.
That's not in this movie.
She was only 16 years old.
I was waiting to see if it was, but I don't know what movie that's from.
I don't know what movie that's
Someone
from.
tells me.
Yeah.
Let's skip ahead a few decades to get to the really important one. 2003's The Italian Job.
Mm-hmm.
Important because it was the one I saw in the theater and saw without knowing that there was an original. Because people don't really talk about The Old Italian Job very much.
Do they not? I feel like that scene with the minis is so famous.
I get, like, it is. I hear about it sometimes, but, like, okay, on the spectrum of how much do people talk about it, you've got The Godfather at one end.
Yeah.
And at the other end, you've got literally a movie no one's ever heard of because no one talks about it.
Yeah.
The Italian Job is not that high. It's not that far towards The Godfather.
I mean, I guess maybe, so like your experience might be with film people. And so maybe it's like American film people don't talk about it that much. But I feel like I watch a lot of British media, and I feel like it's pretty popular in the UK.
I mean, here's the thing. You've just said a thing that is cogent and accurate and really insightful. And not only do I think you're right, but also I feel bad and also ignorant.
Oh.
So good job.
That was not my intention.
Let's not do this show anymore. This is the
Is
last
this how
episode.
it ends? We were actually just talking about this, like, what will be that scenario? What will happen someday? We're not going to be doing this when we're 100, so what'll happen to make us stop? Are we doing this until one of us dies?
We stopped when I said a thing that was kind of ignorant, and then you said a thing telling me that it was ignorant, and I was like, yeah, that was kind of ignorant. I'm embarrassed. Let's not do the show anymore.
All right, I guess this is it. Bye, guys.
What kind of idiots are we that we start a Patreon and like a month into doing a Patreon, we stop doing the show?
Can't do it anymore. It's like one of those things, like when your relationship is ending, you try to like do all kinds of things to like help it survive, even though you don't know that's what you're doing. Not that I've ever done that. Not with you. Oh God.
We're okay.
I've dug myself in a bad hole. We're fine. We're fine.
In 2003, they made a remake of The Italian Job.
Mm-hmm.
I say they. Can I talk about who the they are?
Yes.
So the they were, I would say of note, 3 different people. One, let's talk about the people that wrote this movie. So in order to do that, I want to talk about some people that didn't write this movie. So this movie was almost written by Neil Purvis and Robert Wade.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen their names before?
I don't know.
Well, I'll say this. If you were going to find some guys to write a remake of a British movie, a famous British movie, you couldn't find anyone better because they are the British screenwriters who co-wrote the 7 James Bond films from 1999's The World Is Not Enough to this year's No Time to Die.
My goodness.
They've written lots of James Bond.
My goodness.
They turned in a draft, and maybe several. They didn't make that movie. So the studio went with the Powerses. They went with Donna and Wayne Powers. They co-wrote Deep Blue Sea, the movie where smart sharks bite Samuel L. Jackson in half and eat LL Cool J's bird.
That's great.
That's who they decided to get to do their version of The Italian Job. I cannot describe to you how impressed I am by the amount of research that Wayne and Donna Powers did when they were making their script for The Italian Job. They watched the original. Guess how many times they watched the original? Because they did watch it. Guess like how many times, famously, they watched it before they wrote their script.
Once?
One time. They watched it a grand total of one time and then wrote their script for a multi-million-dollar movie based on it.
Well, maybe they didn't want it to be too heavily influenced. They just wanted it to be like shaded with the original.
I think that's what ended up happening.
Yeah.
Like, I think they just went on to say, like, we did something inspired by the original Italian Job.
Yeah.
Inspired by. And that's even what the director said, F. Gary Gray.
Oh.
Can I talk about F. Gary Gray for a second?
Yeah, his name just looks like Gary.
Gary?
Gary.
F. Gary Gray is actually a super, super cool guy, very talented. He did shitload of music videos. He directed Friday, Set It Off, The Negotiator, starring Samuel L. Jackson, not bitten in half by smart sharks. He directed Be Cool, the sequel to Get Shorty. That was not very good. He directed Law Abiding Citizen, Straight Outta Compton, which was very good, and The Fate of the Furious. But remember, Fate is spelled F and then 8 because it's the 8th Fast and the Furious movie.
Yeah.
Those movies are good, just so you know.
Good.
They're about family. I don't know if you knew that.
I thought they were about cars.
No, they're about family.
Okay.
You'd be forgiven for thinking that, but if you watch them, it's really subtle, but they're actually about family.
Okay. I know one of them died.
Yeah, he did. And
That's very sad.
I cried when I watched that movie. Like, I genuinely cried.
It sounds like he was a nice guy.
Like, he's not, but the way they handle it is really beautiful.
Anyway.
So F. Gary Gray directed this movie. It's super different, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like a Hollywood blockbuster type of movie.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like, I kind of object to the female character being underwritten in this movie more than in the other one, because in the other one, no one has any kind of a characterization. Do you know what I mean?
I told you, one of them is on Michael Caine, and then the rest of them are just, we're doing a job in Britain. We're doing a job in Italy.
Yes,
we're doing a job,
job,
and it's in Italian. We're stealing gold.
Yeah.
And I work for on Michael Caine.
Yeah. Yes, Charlize Theron is the girl in this movie.
Mm-hmm. What's the same? Because I'd seen this one, and it was really fun watching the original, because I'm sitting there going like, man, I know that name. I know that guy. But in so many ways, it's different.
I mean, the whole revenge thing. I mean, I guess in the original, it's not even really revenge. It's just like he died and he's trying to do the job that the other guy started. In the second one, well, the second one, the remake begins with the Italian Job. They have done a job in Italy and then they are betrayed by
one of their own.
By Steve.
Steve, it's the dumbest villain name I've ever heard. That's the name you come up with when you have 5 seconds to think about it, and it's a placeholder for a new name. But Edward Norton plays this movie's big villain, Steve.
And so the movie is really about what would have happened if they'd been stuck on that mountain and they'd gotten off the mountain and then one of their number had turned on them. And then what would have happened after that?
Noel Coward.
And shot Noel Coward, who apparently was already not at all well.
I mean, it's just insult to injury at that point.
Yeah, if Noel Coward had been on the bus and then someone had shot him and also he was Donald Sutherland, that would have happened.
Okay, can I describe a little bit more?
Yeah.
So this movie starts out, we are in Italy. They are about to do a job, and I say they. I'm talking about Charlie Croker. Same name as the original. This time we've traded on Michael Caine for
Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
Marky Mark. Well, it's just Marky Mark.
Oh,
the Funky Bunch sat this one out.
Sorry.
I don't think anyone in the movie was in the Funky Bunch, but it's just Marky Mark. It's weird. Like, we live in Boston, but I'm actually way more comfortable doing like the Michael Caine accent than I am doing a Boston accent.
I'm very uncomfortable doing a Boston accent. It just comes out sounding New York.
Yeah, like I can do it. I have to be in the right situation, and genuinely, like, my Boston accent is really just kind of talking the way I normally do, but adding "ked" to the end of everything.
Ked.
You from Revere, ked? That's
you from
like
Southie, kid.
That's my Boston accent.
Yeah, the Nath Shah. It's more the O's. It's just turning O's into A's.
Yeah,
the Nath Shah.
Nasha.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
It's not
yeah,
dropping.
kid,
It's not dropping your R's. People think it's like Havid Yad, and it's not that. It's making your O's into A's.
It's not only that.
Yeah, but that's like more of like a old fashioned like Kennedy. like rich people Boston accent. Like the working class Boston accent is a little bit different. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but anyway, we get Mark Wahlberg in this one.
Wahlberg.
He's Charlie Croker. It's totally different. He's not like just getting out of prison. They are doing the Italian job. He's there. He's leading it. Now, this is clear. It seems like it's his first time leading the crew because normally it would be led by Mr. Bridger, John Bridger in this one, who is not Noel Coward. He is Donald Sutherland, who's there on the job with them. And instead of having a crew of, let me check my notes, 47 people, all with the same motivation, which is, I'm British and I'm doing a job in Italy, they are actual distinct characters. Are they well written? I don't know.
No.
But they are distinct because, like, you've got Jason Statham as handsome. Well, actually, his motivation is, I'm British and I'm doing a job in Italy.
There you go.
He's the only one who has that motivation, though. You have Edward Norton as Steve, whose motivation is, I'm Edward Norton and I have a mustache.
And I want to be rich.
Well, you find that out later.
Gotcha.
They all want to be rich. It's really, his motivation for the first 20 minutes is basically just mustache, and then it's betrayal.
Yeah.
His motivation goes from mustache to betrayal.
Mustache betrayal.
Sorry, mustache to mustache and betrayal. He always has the mustache. Just he adds the betrayal.
You gotta move on past the mustache.
Then we have Seth Green as Lyle, who is a delightful nerd, who's a hacker. And this movie, and like all good movies from 1998 to 2007, is full of amazing computer stuff. It's great. Is it realistic?
No.
No, but who cares?
His motivation is getting revenge on his
on Sean Fanning.
who invented Napster.
Like, okay, is there? Please reach out to us if you are a member of our audience. I'm going to say a thing, and please reach out if you feel like you did not really, if this either didn't resonate with you or you literally needed it explained. The basic thing about Lyle is that he was in college with Sean Fanning, and the thing he keeps talking about is that he invented Napster and Sean Fanning stole it from him. Now, Sean Fanning is a name I know.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I saw him, Sean Fanning's in this movie. And when I saw him show up, my reaction at the time was, holy shit, they got Sean Fanning. Not, holy shit, I don't know who Sean Fanning is, and they're acting like I should. I think those are the two basic reactions.
Yeah.
So that's Lyle, and his main motivation is, I'm Seth Green. And then you have Mos Def as Left Ear, and his motivation is two things. One is, I'm Mos Def and I'm very cool, and also I am deaf in one ear.
Yes.
That is his motivation. And that is our crew.
Yeah.
One little thing I am going to say really quickly. During the Italian job, in the Italian job, it involves a lot of, we're in boats and canals and stuff like that. There is a stuntman who actually was part of a crew that won some awards for this movie. Can I tell you what his name was?
Yes.
Michael Caine's. Worked on the remake for the Italian job as a stuntman.
Great.
And I think it's great. So they do the job, they pull it off, the details aren't important. They are in the mountains.
In the
and,
bus.
Like, I wanted to find out desperately if it was like the same area from the original movie, but like you can't really find it out.
Yeah.
They're in their van, they've got all the gold, and then Steve, again, dumbest villain name of all time, does a thing.
Double crosses them.
He does a betray. He does a big betray. Because a little betray would have been, I'm taking your gold and I'm leaving.
Yeah.
A big betray. What makes it a big betray?
Someone has to die.
He shoots Donald Sutherland. Now, let me ask you something. If you watched a movie and Donald Sutherland was there as like a nice old guy who's got kind of a twinkle in his eye and is clearly a very good mentor for Mark Wahlberg, if he gets shot, would you be like a little sad?
I mean, here's the thing.
Yeah.
But I'm going to answer your question with a question.
Okay, because I'm going somewhere with this. Let's see if both of the things we're trying to do converge.
He's talking to Mark Wahlberg, and he's looking him in the eye and going, this is my last job.
Oh, yeah.
After this, I'm going to get out. I got to do it for my daughter. I got to go straight. And I looked at you and I said, he's going to die.
There is no
and then
question
he did die.
that he is going to indeed die. So that, no, you're right. But I go back to my original question, which is, if you watch Donald Sutherland being a kindly old guy die in a movie, would you be a tiny bit sad?
Sure, why not?
What's the thing that they introduce you to? What's the idea? Who's the other character they introduce you to that makes you much sadder that Donald Sutherland died in the beginning of this movie?
Well, he has a beautiful daughter.
Oh, a beautiful daughter.
Who's very sad that he's dead and very mad at Charlie.
Mm-hmm. But like, the movie opens up with him talking on the phone to his beautiful, I know this is an unpopular opinion, Charlize Theron, very pretty.
She looks great.
Yeah. especially in 2000. I mean, now, like all the time.
All the time.
Did you know that about like beautiful Hollywood stars? They tend to be beautiful for a long time.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plastic surgery is a wonderful thing.
Or even not. Sometimes genes. Those two things combined tend to make.
Yeah, I was going to say, frankly, both.
Sometimes. She's in it. We meet her first. She is talking to Donald Sutherland, and they have a delightful little relationship. They definitely have a very screenplay relationship.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely have a very first 10 pages screenplay relationship where he says things to her like, "What do I always say?" And she says back to him the thing he always says, which is only a thing that happens in screenplays.
Yeah.
Because you have to set up the things that are going to come back later in the movie.
Well, and they sort of address each other by their relationship really frequently. It's like, Dad,
Yeah, exactly.
Dad. Just like I do in a restaurant if I'm going out with my dad and I want to be very clear to the wait staff that he's my dad and not my date. Like, Dad.
So yes, they have a very screenplay relationship. And that's a problem with this movie. I don't think it's a problem that's big enough to sink the movie.
Yeah.
Because the movie's not trying to ascend the greatest heights of cinema.
Mm-hmm.
It's trying to be a fun movie.
Yeah.
So something like that doesn't scuttle it. Like something like that actually makes it kind of charming. But that is definitely there. So he dies. He gets shot by, let me check my notes, Steve. And his mustache. And
which he cannot twirl.
No, because too short.
Too short.
It's the evil little mustache. Not John Waters little, but like normal, just creepy little. So a thing happens, and the van they're in goes into the water, and Steve thinks he's killed the whole crew. But they are not dead. They survive, and they vow that they are going to get their revenge on Steve and get the gold back. And the movie goes forward an amount of time, 6 months, a year.
It's a year.
Yeah.
They live to heist another day.
And the rest of the movie is them, plus Charlize Theron, trying to get their gold back from Steve.
Yes.
Do you think it would be incredibly controversial if I spoil the end?
No.
They get their gold back from Steve.
Yay.
And then Steve, it's implied, is going to be killed by the Ukrainian mob.
Yes.
But
not by our heroes.
And if anyone asks, well, what's the Ukrainian mob? What are they like? And I would tell you this. They're just like the Russian mob.
But Ukrainian.
But Ukrainian. As far as movies in 2003 go, they're basically the same thing.
Oh, there was a fun actor in this because there was one of the guys from Hunt for Red October was in this.
Yeah, playing Ukraine. That's why I thought they were Russian at first, because he's one of the guys from the Red October itself.
Yeah.
He's the one that says the man was a pig, talking about Putin.
Yeah.
That's the guy.
Yeah.
He's
not
in
the
it.
Russian president, but the character in the Hunt for Red October.
That's what I mean.
Yes. No, I know that. I know that you know that, but I am making sure our audience understands that.
I'm talking about an actor.
Yeah.
So we have this movie. I don't know what kind of level of detail to get in with it because they're so different until they're the same.
Yeah.
Like the entire third act of the movie is a mini car chase through LA. Can I tell the story about my seeing this in college?
Yes.
So I saw this when I was in college, the end. No. So when I saw this in college, my roommate at the time, I think it came out in the summer. I'd have to double check. So he was my roommate sophomore year. He was from LA. Guy named Greg. Great guy. We both saw The Italian Job over the summer, and we were texting with each other. And part of the movie is they're driving through LA in the 3 Mini Coopers, and they drive down some stairs into the LA subway system because they need to get on the tracks so they can get through a tunnel because they're going to blow the truck that has the gold through the street, drop it down into the tunnel, and then get all the gold into the Mini Coopers. That's their whole plan.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a gross oversimplification. They put a lot of work into that plan.
That's the plan.
That's a part of their plan. I want to be fair. They did a lot of work. Seth Green had to he had to hack into the entire traffic light system for all of LA.
Did it on his Mac.
Yep. Did you just make an America's Sweethearts joke?
Yeah.
I love you so much.
I know.
That's like my favorite line from that movie.
I know.
Okay. I hope someone knows what we're talking about. So the minis drive down into the subway, and a thing happens because they're driving down into the subway, and there's like people jumping out of the way, and you're like, are they going to kill people? Are they going to run people over? And I saw the movie, and I enjoyed it. And I finished the movie, and I texted my friend Greg, who is from LA, and I said, Greg, what'd you think of that movie? I thought it was pretty fun. And he goes, it was totally unbelievable. I was like, yeah, it was kind of unrealistic, but like, what did you find so unbelievable? But he says, when they went into the LA subway, there were people down there. There are never people in the LA subway system.
No one uses it.
And that stuck with me for fucking decades.
There it is.
I loved that. So maybe that's unrealistic, but the rest of the movie, very realistic. Extremely realistic.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a different movie. It's so weird to see something where they're trying to take something that is really built, as I said, on like tone and action and comedy, and then they turn it into a Hollywood action movie that has all the beats and all the characters of a Hollywood action movie.
Yeah.
Like, let me ask you this. Is it really clear from the beginning that there's going to be something romantic happening between Mark Wahlberg and Charlize Theron?
Yes.
See, that's funny. I didn't expect you to say that. I thought...
Oh.
Because I didn't... Oh, well, no, actually...
Yes, because right at the very beginning, Donald Sutherland says to him, you gotta find someone that makes you happy. You gotta settle down and just do that. And there's only one woman in the movie.
Okay.
So who else would he be doing that with?
But... No, you're actually... I think you might be helping me prove my point.
Okay.
So I'm going to take that a step further, which is... I don't think there is any question in the audience's mind that the two people who are going to end up together are Charlize Theron and Mark Wahlberg. There's no point where you think Charlize Theron will end up with no one.
Yeah.
Or would end up with Mos Def.
Yeah.
Which would be great because he's great.
Yeah.
Or would end up
very
with...
attractive.
Yeah. Or would end up with Jason Statham playing Handsome Rob.
That'd be okay.
I mean...
I don't think she'd go for him.
I could see it.
Anyway.
Yeah. I don't think she's going to end up with Seth Green. But the thing, like, I don't think she's going to end up with any of them.
Yeah.
I never even think about that because in a Hollywood movie like this, you've got your main character.
Right. She's only going to end up with the main character.
Of course. The other guys are all supporting characters. And it's just funny to see a movie on rails like this.
Yeah.
Because it is on rails in every single way. You know what's going. There are a couple little surprises here and there. There's one scene I do want to talk about that I think is the best scene in the movie. But there are so many things that are so predictable, but the movie doesn't really let that stop the fun. It still is a fun heist movie despite that stuff.
Yeah.
Can I tell you what I thought the best scene in the movie was?
Yes.
So Stella, played by Charlize Theron, her name is said a number of times.
Okay.
Yeah. You were asking me before about what her name was.
Yeah, well, I saw
it
in the Wikipedia, and I was like, do they actually even use her name in the movie? And you were like, yeah, they do. And I didn't remember, but I believe you.
So Stella is the only person that Steve doesn't know from the crew, and he thinks they're all dead. So what they do, they want to see the inside of his house, so they figure out a whole thing. It's kind of fun. They get her in the house, posing as someone from the cable company.
Yeah.
Because his internet and his cable has gone out.
Yes.
And of course, I don't know if you know this, Charlize Theron, very pretty. So Steve asks her out, tries to get her number.
In a very obnoxious manner.
Yeah. And she looks at him and goes, "You killed my father.
Prepare to die.
Prepare to die. You killed my father. Gross, and I'm leaving." But she doesn't say any of that because she's part of the crew and she knows how the plan needs to go. And their whole plan is to break into the house while he's gone. And because she said like, you got to go on a date with him, like quote unquote, go on a date with him. But when he's out like to meet you, we'll break into his house and we'll steal all the gold. But it doesn't happen because stuff happens. And they're like, guess you've got to keep the date. So she goes and she meets him. I think their date is the best scene in the movie. I love it because it is the most unexpected scene in the movie, I thought, in as much as that it's a little unexpected.
Yeah.
Like a tiny bit. Maybe it's not unexpected at all.
In what way?
In that I didn't expect that everything would be revealed so quickly in the movie.
Gotcha.
I feel like normally what happens with movies like this is the villain doesn't know about the heroes for a long time. Like I feel like that's usually the reveal, like going from the second act to the third act. But this is like absolutely halfway through the movie. Everything suddenly changes because she is out to dinner with him and she says a thing that only her dad says.
Yeah.
And it's a very weird phrase about like the evil within people or whatever it was.
Yeah, something like that.
It's the kind of thing that no one says.
Yeah.
And only Donald Sutherland's character ever said it. And Steve immediately recognized it and goes, "Hey, I only ever heard one guy say that. He has a daughter. I know what's going on right now." And he's like, "I killed your dad." And then suddenly Mark Wahlberg and the rest of the Funky Bunch all show up. And they're all there in the restaurant. And it's like genuinely fun and tense because now the movie has changed. The story has changed. It's not a secret heist anymore. Now it's an out in the open heist. And it's fun.
Well, it was so funny in that scene too because all of this is happening, including like Steve getting severely punched in the face by Mark Wahlberg. It's all happening in the middle of like a restaurant like where people are and like just going about their business. And so we just kept like imagining like the waiter coming over and being like, sir, you're gonna have to lower your voice. I'm gonna have to ask you to leave, like like anyone would do. Like they're so disruptive in this public restaurant.
That is why it's my favorite scene in the movie.
Yeah.
It's like, not only is it a chance for Edward, it's all the best acting in the movie happens in this scene, and also it just keeps giving you these other gifts, like wondering why no one is saying anything and no managers are coming over at all to talk to them. It's great.
Yeah.
And then they end up they do pull off the heist in somewhat of the same way, where they've got the truck, because the way the quote unquote Italian job goes is nothing like the Italian job in the original.
Mm-hmm.
The LA job goes exactly the way the Italian job goes in the original.
That's right.
With the gold on the truck, and not exactly the same way.
They get to the train, and then the Ukrainian mafia shows up and takes Steve away, and they have the gold.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. The funny thing about it was, I don't know that I've ever seen someone's imminent death by torture treated with such levity.
I was like, ba-dum-bum.
Like, it's so light. It's so like, womp womp, they got me. No, guys, come on, guys, don't do it.
Like, no,
and, like,
he killed their cousin.
Like Marky Mark, Shirley's Theron, and the Funky Bunch are all like laughing about it.
yeah, well, he shouldn't have killed that guy. He shot the guy in the pawn shop or whatever.
I know, but I'm not arguing that he doesn't deserve it in the context of the movie.
No, I understand.
But it's treated with a levity that I found a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's fair.
I feel like it could have been treated with just a little more seriousness and sincerity. But yes, Steve and his mustache deserve to die.
Yeah.
In the context of the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the movie ends and we get this, like, they do a weird thing where like the entire epilogue happens while the credits are rolling, and we get to see what each of the guys did with all of their money.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, can I actually throw something out?
Yeah.
So one thing that they introduce in this, because there's no betrayal, there's nothing like that in the original. No one does a betray. In this one, when they've done the Italian job, they're all the guys are talking about what they want to do with their money. And Seth Green is like, I'm going to buy a big stereo system. And Mos Def is like, I'm going to buy a big house with a library. And Handsome Rob, Jason Statham, is like, I'm going to buy a fancy car. And then Steve, it turns out, has no imagination whatsoever and just buys all of the things that they said they were going to buy.
The exact things, not just like a car, but
Yeah.
like the very car or whatever.
So there's like a little fun running joke when they're spying on him.
Yeah,
And Seth
he's
Green's
like,
like,
you got my thing.
he got my stereo. I thought it was cute.
It was
Like,
funny.
It's a fun movie. Did you think it was as fun as the original?
No, it was not. It had some funny bits, but was not nearly as witty and funny and cute.
Yeah. But good movie.
Yeah.
I
it's fun.
enjoyed it.
Why not?
Do I love it? No. But like, it is the best movie I have ever seen that Sean Fanning is in, the creator of Napster.
There it is.
Something I was looking into when I found out about this. I wonder how much of the whole Napster joke in it was actually kind of a product placement for the Napster like paid music service.
Yeah.
Because by 2003, Napster wasn't a thing anymore.
I
like
mean,
the brand had been bought by, I think, like Bertelsmann and became a paid service.
Yeah, I mean, the whole movie is a ad and product placement for the new Mini Coopers that came out around that time.
I was reading about this. Did you know that there's actually, like, it's not product placement? It's actually something else.
Okay.
Because product placement is Rene Russo
Drinking the Pepsi?
a Pepsi One in the Thomas Crown Affair.
So stupid.
That's product placement is like Elliot giving Reese's Pieces to E.T.
Yeah.
Product integration is a little bit different.
Product integration would be more like the Bulgari affair.
Yes, exactly. So this would be defined as product integration, where the product that's being placed is actually integral to the plot.
Yeah.
I guess the Reese's Pieces kind of are, but not in the same way. It's like
it could have been any candy.
they're in two scenes,
Yeah.
but this is like they have Mini Coopers. I found out this about the original. The filmmakers wanted Mini Coopers.
Yeah.
And they went to the company and they said, we're not going to give you any Mini Coopers. We won't do that. So you're going to have to, if you want Mini Coopers, you're going to have to buy them. And apparently Fiat came to them and said, you can have all the Fiats you want to make your movie. If you want some Fiats, would you like 20 Fiats? Would you like 30 wanted Fiats, we will give you as many Fiats as you want. And they were like, no, we don't want any Fiats. We want Mini Coopers. And that's what they did. They bought a bunch of Mini Coopers, even though Fiat was going to give them as many as they wanted. This is fine. What I'm doing is fine. It's totally fine. So they made this movie, and that's the end of the episode because there was nothing. This was our plan. Our plan was that we were only going to talk about the original Italian Job and the new Italian Job.
It would be a nice, short, quick episode.
But then a thing always happens, which is we find out there's more.
I want you guys out there in the listening audience just to ask yourself before we move on. This is like just a little interstitial quiz, like you sometimes see. Of the two of us, Ariel and Jeremy, which one do you think is the one that every single time says, oh, by the way, there's this other thing that we absolutely have to watch?
I could see everyone doing the thing. What was that guy who did that was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And he did the phone a friend. And he called his dad and said, Dad, I'm about to win $1 million. Just total player baller move at that point.
Which human being do you think has a personality type that lends itself to saying, we thought we were done, but we're going to do a whole bunch more work instead? Which one?
There's a Bollywood movie called Players from 2012 that is a remake of the 2003 Italian Job.
It's 17 hours long.
That is a lie. It is a normal length movie for Bollywood. It is 3 hours long.
It's 3.5.
No, it was 3 hours long. It was less than 3 hours.
Okay.
It was 100% less than 3 hours.
Okay.
And it took us 3 nights to watch. And I loved every minute of it. And we're going to talk about it right now. Now, it's fun because this isn't our first time doing Bollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we've had very different experiences with it. And I want to have more experiences because I think what I'm learning, I can't speak for you. I think I'm learning that I kind of love Bollywood.
Yeah, I am learning that you love Bollywood too. I also do. It's really fun.
It's the theatricality that I never really expected, and I'm just so delighted with every time we get to watch it.
Yeah.
So we got to watch Amitabh Bachchan in Sharabi when we did our Arthur episode. What else did we do that was Bollywood? And we did Bride and Prejudice, which is like kind of Bollywood.
Yeah, I think that's the only other I don't think we've done like a real true Bollywood other than Sharabi.
This is definitely our only like modern actual Bollywood. That we've done.
And it was interesting the contrast between this and like Sharabi, which was from the 80s, because like the dancing and singing is still very distinctly Bollywood, but much more modern.
Yeah, this one was very hip hop.
Yeah.
Super, super hip hop.
It didn't have enough dancing and singing in it for me, honestly. I could have had more. I would have been happy with more.
That's one of the things that I feel like I'm kind of learning is that like I go into it expecting like, oh, it's a musical.
Mm-hmm.
But in a musical, you have like, you've got a song every 10, 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't, it's a variety show, which we've talked about before, which means it is going to have some songs, but it isn't going to be all singing, all dancing all the way through.
And like only the girls had songs. Like the boys could have had some songs. I would have liked the magician to have a song.
Charlie's got a song during the credits. There's like the big song during the credits.
Okay.
That's clearly like the pops, the hit single.
Well, fair enough.
I also would have liked the magician to get a song about what he did to his daughter. There's a lot we need to unpack here.
We got to unpack here.
Okay, maybe I should back up a little bit.
I think you should.
So what is it? So this is Players. This is from 2012. Players, from everything that I read online about it before we watched it, seem to be a remake of the 2003 The Italian Job, not the 1969 one.
Yeah.
So I think we went into it expecting, oh, it's just going to be that over again. It was kind of nice, though, because it's not just a remake of the 2003 one. It's a weird combo of 1969 and 2003.
Yeah, it's like 90% 2003 maybe, but with like 10% of 1969 kind of sprinkled in.
But like, it's clearly not a coincidence. It's clearly intentional. Like, there's some stuff that is absolutely intentional that I think is not in dispute. There's like one or two things, though, that I found that I think are intentional, but I don't know for sure because I don't have these people in front of me to ask.
Right.
And I couldn't really find anything. So like, here's a thing that is definitely from the original that is not from 2003.
Yeah.
The Mr. Bridger character.
Yeah.
This is Victor Braganza. He is clearly the Mr. Bridger character.
Uh-huh.
He's in prison but he kind of runs the place.
Yeah.
And all of the police officers and the prison guards have a tremendous amount of respect for him and a huge they really defer to him.
Well, you meet him, he's like teaching a seminar on crime, and they're so interested in what he has to say.
Like, and as is true with everything that we've watched so far in Bollywood, everyone's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, our main characters, our heroes are heroes.
Yes.
They are moral paragons. They're even when they're criminals, they're really good people. So that's something that's like, clearly it's from 1969. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Here's the thing, though. When he's in prison, he's talking to Charlie, who is called Charlie in this one. Charlie Mascarenhas, who is played by a Bachchan. This is our third with a Bachchan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is Abhishek Bachchan is the lead in this.
Now, is he the one that's married to
Aishwarya Rai?
Yeah.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
good.
In fact, they were married in 2007.
That's an attractive couple right there.
It really is.
Yeah.
So we're keeping everything in the family. He does look a lot like his dad.
He does.
They're very tall.
Yeah.
The
It's a tall
Bachchans
family.
are.
Yeah.
So we have Charlie, and we have, quote unquote, Mr. Bridger. It's Victor Braganza. Charlie, is brought in by Victor to do this crime. But his reason for doing it is he tells Charlie, I want to start an orphanage. And remember what I found out about Noel Coward and his relationship with Peter Collinson, the director, and the Actors Orphanage. Like, I cannot think that that's a coincidence.
I'm not sure.
I'm not
might
sure
be.
either.
Yeah, it might be. Because, like, I feel like if you want to give this character a really, really, really noble purpose, because he's in jail, right? So he has to have a very noble purpose to do this heist. Otherwise, he's not a good guy and we can't sympathize with him. So what's the most noble purpose you could possibly come up with? Obviously, it's to build the best orphanage in India, if not the world.
Yeah, but it could also be like he could build a hospital.
I guess, yeah.
There's so many noble things they could do. Orphanage is really specific. And you know what? I'm going to make a wild assumption right now. I think that they did the same amount of research that I did because I found that out in 5 minutes.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm assuming they found it out in 5 minutes too.
I mean, they've got the internet just like we do.
Yeah, but they, by the way, this is the thing that happened that seems to be consistent. The screenplay is credited to Rohit Jugraj and Sudeep Sharma, but the dialogue is credited only to Sudeep Sharma. So I'm not quite sure what the writing process was.
Fascinating.
I love that dialogue gets its own credit.
Yeah.
For the record, it was directed by Abbas Mustan, which is a hyphenate. And obviously, Abhishek Bachchan is like, this is his movie at this point. It is, I think, important to mention, just to be clear, the critical consensus for this movie is poor. But you may ask, how much money did it make, though?
How much money did it make?
Not a lot.
Gotcha.
So I think we can all agree, not a well-received movie.
Apparently, it was the first Bollywood movie to film at the North Pole, but they never went to the North Pole in the movie, so I'm confused about that.
I'm not sure how much I trust Wikipedia pages about Bollywood movies.
Yeah.
Because they're written so breathlessly.
Yeah.
They're clearly written by fans of the movie.
Yeah.
And they're not objective. So I don't know about that whole shot in the North Pole thing.
We didn't see the North Pole. Like, they were never at the North Pole. Like, they were in Russia, but they weren't at the North Pole.
I mean, we assume they were somewhere cold where there was snow.
Maybe it was just a translation error.
Maybe.
Could be.
Let's assume that's what it was.
We do have a Bollywood consultant who's a friend of ours that we were texting with, or Jeremy was texting with as we were watching this movie, just to make sure, like, culturally we sort of understood what was going on. And I think we were right on the money for a lot of it. Yeah. And they answered some of our questions.
There was a really beautiful moment where we were just comparing, because what's the one Bollywood movie that, like, fairly well?
Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham.
Which is very, very famous. And this is my friend's favorite Bollywood movie.
Yes.
My friend who is Indian.
Yes.
And they just had, it was really great. I recorded this little video. Maybe I'll post it in the Slack of you, like, describing Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham, because we were watching a little bit of it. And I sent it to my friend, and my friend was just like, that's 100% what it is. That's the good job, Ariel. That is 100% the plot of that movie.
Thank you.
One other thing that they clued us into, so there's another actor in this who is Sonam Kapoor, who plays Nena Berganza. So she is the this is where we get 2003. She's the Stella part.
Right.
She's Victor's daughter.
Right.
And in this version, watches him die in front of her.
Yes.
Which makes her very sad.
In her arms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He gets shot a bunch. People get shot a lot in this movie.
There's a lot of shooting.
The shooting is very theatrical. She is in a movie that is currently on Netflix, and I am going to do my best to pronounce this correctly. How I Felt When I Saw That Girl. That's the English title.
Uh-huh.
So the real title is Ek Ladki Ko Deka Toa Esalaga. That is the name of it.
Uh-huh.
And it is on Netflix.
Uh-huh.
And it is known for being one of, if not the first LGBT movie made in Bollywood.
Cool.
So it tells the story. She plays the main character, Sweetie Chaudhry, who is a closeted lesbian. And it's like she's coming out to her conservative and traditional family.
Gotcha.
So that's of note. I definitely want to watch that now.
Sounds interesting.
I also do want to watch all of Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham.
Yeah, we should totally do that.
Which we'll get to at some point.
That would be fun.
Just you and me will get to at some point.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll do an Adapter Parish Plus about it.
Yeah. So those are some of the big people that are in it. There is some stuff from the original. It is mostly the new one, though. Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
In the new one, the movie starts out with them doing the Italian job, and then they are betrayed, and then like he thinks they're dead, and then the movie really starts.
Yeah.
How much of the movie does that all take up, the thing that I just said?
In the 2003 version? Like the first 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah. It's like the first act of the movie is that, and then the movie starts. The second act starts, and we're in the present, and that has all happened.
Yeah.
It's how much of this movie does that part of the story take?
I mean, half. It's a 50-50 split for sure.
It really is.
Yeah.
Like, we spend it is a 3-hour movie.
This
we
movie
spend
has
a
an
long
intermission.
Time. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, it's great.
But they have to extend things so much. So the crew is like a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
And it's weird because we do have some people. Okay, so we have Deaf Bilal, who is clearly left ear.
Yeah.
He is the most deaf character. They're not the same at all, other than the fact that they're into explosives and they're deaf in one ear.
Yeah.
So in 2003, Lyle, as played by Seth Green, is the hacker. But in this one, who's their hacker?
Spider.
But also, who's their hacker?
Nena.
Right?
Yes.
So we kind of have two of them now.
Yeah.
So Spider is Steve.
Yeah.
Now, remember everything that I said about how terrible a name for a villain Steve is?
Yes, I do remember.
Because I just said it a little while ago.
Yeah.
How much better a villain name is Spider?
Spider.
It's so much better.
He's also very handsome.
Super, super handsome. Do you want to talk a little bit about your reaction to Neil Nitin Mukesh?
He is the most interesting person. First of all, he is a third-generation Bollywood actor. His father and grandfather and grandmother, I believe, were all Bollywood singers in movies. It sounds like they weren't like actors on screen, but rather they were the singing voices for like a lot of characters in a lot of movies, and they were really, really famous. And it's just funny because I was watching this movie, like thinking that he was like a British guy that spoke Hindi really, really well, because it's just so interesting that the Indian subcontinent like has such, just like any other, it's a very, very large place. It just has such a range of ethnicities and different looking people. Like he looks like a white guy in this movie, but he has probably more Bollywood credit than anyone except the Bachchans. He's such a cool character. He's also quite handsome, as I said.
Very handsome.
Yeah.
Like he's the most handsome person in the movie.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was cool as like a rando American, like to subvert my stereotypes about like what people who are in Bollywood movies like look like. And you know, as a dumb American. And I really, really liked him. I thought he was cool. He's also named after Neil Armstrong.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, Spider was very cool.
Yes.
I liked Spider a lot. He's easy to hate.
Yeah.
Real easy to hate. And it's amazing, too, how much they kind of extend things. So, like, here's an example. In 2003, when Steve betrays them, he basically goes, like, they get blocked off on the road, and then Steve steps out of the car and pulls a gun on them. And they're like, Steve, how could, like, clearly we see what's going on immediately. And Steve is like, I don't need to explain what's going on. You know what's going on. And then he shoots Donald Sutherland. And that's basically it. Like, he doesn't have like a monologue or anything like that.
Yeah.
Spider has many monologues in this movie. Like, when he betrays them, it is a big betrayal. It is a 10-minute scene where he explains in detail how he did all of the things that he did to betray them.
Yeah.
And then he shoots a bunch of people. So who are the people that die in this scene? Because
quote unquote die.
Yeah, well, die and quote unquote die.
Yeah. Well, Rhea maybe dies.
So who's Rhea?
Rhea is Charlie's girlfriend from before. We see them at the beginning of the movie pull off a heist of a very expensive necklace. And then they can't see each other for like a year, or they can't see each other for 6 months before or after any given crime. So they can't be seen to associate. So they finally get back together so that they can do this other job.
Like, Victor brings them together.
Yes.
Like, Victor says, Charlie, I've got this job for you. You're the best player around. Player is what they call a thief in this. And we can talk a little bit about the English too.
Yeah.
So you're the best player, but here's some other players that I've got for you. By the way, this entire scene happens in a hospital where Victor he's convinced the guards that he's like having, what is he convinced he's having a heart attack?
He's having a heart attack and like he needs immediate surgery, and the guards are like, please, doctor, save his life. I have so much to learn from him. It's so funny.
But the doctor is Charlie.
Yes.
And then as soon as they're gone, it turns out everyone in the room is also one of the people that Victor has gotten.
Yes.
And the nurse is Rhea.
Yeah.
And it's Charlie is like, hey, Rhea, I know you.
Yeah. So she maybe gets shot. Someone who does get shot is Ronnie, who is the magician.
Why do they have a magician?
They have a magician because
he's part of the crew.
He's
he
part
has
of the
a role.
crew. He has a role. There's a thing with they're trying to get the gold off one train onto another train, and the magician conjures a magician's trick to make it seem like there's no train there. And
well, no, it's the train is full of Russian soldiers and the gold is on the train.
Yes.
And he needs the Russian soldiers to not know that their train, which is, by the way, a rocket train, is up alongside theirs with like a crane getting the gold off. So he covers all their windows in some technology because he's not magic. He's like David Copperfield magic.
Right.
Sorry if I disappointed anybody. So he makes them like it's the the typical thing where they look out the window and they just see video, and then one of them sees like, oh, it's a pretty lady that I saw before. Something must be weird.
Yes.
And so that's his magic. That's his contribution to everything.
Yeah. But we learn this.
He's got a deep dark secret.
He's got a deep dark secret. This movie has the same thing as the 2003 one, where they all sit around and talk about what they are going to buy when they have like billions of dollars, and Rhea wants this very specific mansion or palace in New Zealand. Yes, in Wellington. Yes, you're right. I'm sorry. It was Nana that was in Australia. And Ronnie, we learn that all he wants is like a smart house, like a voice controlled house, because of his daughter. And he's got a dark secret. This is why he doesn't do magic tricks anymore, because we see this in flashback, he was performing an illusion for his audience of people that like magic, and he had his sweet, chubby little daughter up in a glass box.
Can I describe this?
Yeah.
He does the trick, and the bottom of the glass box opens, and I'm describing exactly what happens in the movie. His daughter, who's maybe like 10, falls from the box, not terribly. I'm not going to say gently, but like she tumbles from the box and falls onto her bottom on the stage.
Onto her feet.
And then rolls on her side.
And how far would you say it is from the box to the stage?
4 or 5 feet. Maybe 6 feet.
So she basically...
It's a tailbone injury if I've ever seen one.
She basically falls very softly and not violently. A lighter fall than it was when I fell down the stairs that time in my parents' house and bruised my butt. Bruised it bad.
I don't think you've ever talked about that on the show before. That's not like a thing we talk about all the time.
My parents, up until recently, had a very, very, very slippery staircase in their house. And if you, God help you, if you walk up and down that staircase wearing socks, and they would blame you if you fell and say, why were you wearing socks? You have to take your socks off. Well, you know it's slippery. Well, we would forget. And one day I was coming down the stairs and I was like carrying stuff and I fell all the way from one landing to the other landing, and I could have very badly injured myself, and I did not, but I bruised my butt pretty bad.
I've never seen anyone bruise the inside of their butt.
I don't know how. I think a stair must have gone like up inside because it didn't really look that bad from the outside, but like it really like, not to be too graphic about it, but I bruised my tailbone basically was what it was.
Yeah.
Like I literally like had a really hard time like standing up and sitting down for a week or two. But the bruise was pretty intense and it was all up in my butt. And I hurt my wrist. My wrist still hurts sometimes from that.
Only when a storm's a coming.
But anyway, I finally, once I had a child and my brother and sister-in-law had a child, I convinced my parents finally, after many, many years, to get carpet runners put on their stairs so that nobody would fall holding a baby in their house. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thankfully, everyone knows that now.
Yes.
Anyway, she falls from not a great height very gently on a stage, and what we find out has actually happened is that she has been
paralyzed.
From where?
From the neck down.
It's very sad.
Her neck, I cannot emphasize enough, her neck was unharmed. She's fine.
So Ronnie wants a smart house for his daughter that is completely voice activated. And everyone wants specific things, and they do the thing where, like, when Spider betrays them and he gets the thing, he gets the giant house that Rhea talked about, and it's a smart house, and everything's voice activated, even though he doesn't really need it. And it's got the cars that one of them wanted, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same as 2003.
The end.
And so Ronnie gets shot and dies.
And he's just dead. He's dead forever.
Rhea gets shot and, quote unquote, dies. Because the thing, I'm spoiling everything. The thing we find out later is that Rhea is A, not dead, because B, she is in league with Spider.
Yes.
And it was fake.
She is betray.
Yeah. And so essentially, that's like, again, the first act of the 2003 version is the entire first half of this version.
Yes.
And they all get separated, and some time passes, and Ronnie's off. They don't know where he is, and then the whole crew comes together, whoever's left, and because we've got Def Bilal, we have Sonny the actor who is there. There's some Mission Impossible type mask stuff in this, where it's like the Charlie puts on a mask and becomes the Russian general that we've already met, and it's like fun. I was talking to you when we were watching it that like the thing I love, and maybe this says more about me. I can't make this assumption about everyone, but like if I'm watching a movie like Mission Impossible, and one character, one actor puts on a mask and then becomes a different character now played by that actor, I buy it 100%. Like if that person does a good job acting, like my assumption is, man, Tom Cruise is a really good actor. It's like, no, it was Philip Seymour Hoffman. He was the one doing it the whole time.
Yeah.
But my reaction is Tom Cruise is so good.
I kind of had that in this. I was like, wait, God, Charlie sounds like he's speaking Russian really well. Oh no, it's still the same guy. It's the same guy. It's the Russian guy.
But I think it was Charlie's voice.
Oh, you think so?
I think so.
That might have been.
It sounded like it. I mean, it's hard to tell because so much of the movie's ADR anyway.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell because they're speaking two languages that we don't speak, Russian and Hindi.
Well, that was the funny thing. So let's talk about the language for a second.
Yeah.
So the version that we got was not legal, and I don't feel bad saying that because you can't get them legally in any easy way.
Yeah.
So the version that we got did come with English subtitles, but there were also subtitles that were burned into the movie. So there were 3 languages that were being spoken in the movie, as you say: Hindi, English, and Russian.
Yeah.
And Russian, anytime Russian was being spoken, English and Hindi subtitles were burned into the screen.
Yeah. And then we got our extra subtitles.
Our extra subtitles on top of that. But the thing about it is probably 80% of what people were speaking was Hindi, but 20% was English.
Yeah.
And I talked to my friend, and I got a little bit of information about that. And I'd love to talk about that for a second, if that's okay with you.
Yes.
So I texted my friend, and I said, we've got people that speak English and Hindi. Is that something that's just Bollywood? And my friend said, yeah, that makes sense because a lot of the schools in India teach 2 or 3 languages depending on the school and what you can afford. So you would probably learn Hindi, and you would learn English, and you would learn whatever the regional language was. So English is one of those things where, like, using it reflects the folks who are able to get an education and consider the Western world to be what India should aim to replicate. This is what my friend told me, who, again, is Indian. that was something that leapt out at us that we did not expect. Because when we watched Sharabi, and that's from like early 80s, there is some English kind of peppered in there.
Yeah, like words, but this was like whole sentences.
Whole phrases. It was usually when someone really wanted to make a point.
Yeah.
Like they would speak 3 Hindi phrases, but then when they needed a button on the scene, the thing they would say would be in English.
Yeah.
To really, really drive their point home.
Yeah.
And that was something I didn't expect.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. And that makes sense too. Cause like obviously this is like the tiniest subset of people, but I actually work with a lot of Indian people now, in India. And they all speak, perfect English, but they all have sort of a different range of accents. And I wonder if it just depends on like who you learned English from. Like some of them sound a little more British and some of them sound like a little more American. And I think it's probably just dependent on like literally who your English teacher was.
Yeah, I find it was fascinating.
Yeah.
It was really, really fascinating. And the most fascinating thing was when the subtitles were clearly written by someone where English is not their first language, because sometimes the subtitles would contain the English, but it would be different English than what was actually being spoken. It was like being translated again.
Yeah.
What was the one word that kept popping up throughout the entire movie that delighted me to no end?
Rascal.
Anytime someone needed to say that someone was like an asshole or a jerk or a criminal or a villain of some kind, they would call them a rascal.
Yeah.
And actually, I really wish the title of this movie was Rascals.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And not Players, because Rascal is so much better. And it's said approximately 57 times.
So many times.
In the course of this movie. It's really, really good. So the whole second half of the movie, they find Spider. He's in Wellington. So the whole second half happens in New Zealand, and we get to meet some people who are New Zealanders.
New Zealanders. You can also say Kiwis.
Right. So we meet a whole bunch of Kiwis in this movie, and it was a fun little jaunt across the world. They're in many, many different places, filmed on many, many continents, and eventually, I'll spoil the end. They get their gold back. And where in the 2003 one, we get this kind of too light scene where Steve is being carted off by the Ukrainian mob and the rest of the crew are just kind of laughing about it. In this one, his last scene is not light at all because Naina, getting revenge for her father's death, shoots him, let me check my notes, quite a few times. A bunch.
Because we were like...
Until he is dead.
Because like there's that moment of hesitation and we were like, she's not going to shoot him. She can't shoot him. She's like a sympathetic character. How can she shoot someone? Bang, 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 bang. Oh, okay. She shot him a bunch of times.
Like there's no question.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where like I just want to know more about what the kind of established morality is for heroes in a Bollywood movie.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like revenge is okay.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Like if you look at American cinema, it is pretty acceptable for heroes to do a lot of different things. You can kill a lot of people. And from what we've watched so far with Bollywood, like in a movie like this, like they don't kill that many people.
No.
But when someone has killed their father, that is when it's okay to do that.
Based on this one movie that we watched, yes, that does seem to be the case.
Well, I want to watch more.
Yeah. And also, like, we know he's a nice guy because he's formed a relationship with
You mean Charlie?
Charlie, yeah. He's formed a relationship with poor dead Ronnie's daughter.
Poor dead Ronnie's paralyzed daughter?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that was the sequel. It was called Poor Dead Ronnie's Paralyzed Daughter.
But I think he gets her. Don't we see at the very end, like in the epilogue, he gets her voice activated house?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much going on in this movie.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Did I mention there's a rocket train? They have a train that has rockets on it so they can catch up to the other train. But the thing is, when they get to the other train, the rockets are still running. And I don't know why.
Wait.
Because now they've caught up to it. And now they can just be a train.
We've missed one very important plot point.
We've probably missed 20, but what's the one you have?
This is the most important thing. How they get away with the gold at the end. How do they hide the gold?
I forgot about it. We totally forgot. There is a Mini Cooper chase in this.
Yeah.
There's a whole Mini Cooper chase. And whereas in the original, the whole thing was we're going to put the gold inside Mini Coopers. In this one, they have decoy Mini Coopers. So they drop the Mini Coopers off with... There are 2 characters in this movie that are played by the same actor, played by a guy named Johnny Lever. So there's Mangal Chopra and Bud Chopra. They are twin brothers. Mangal Chopra is in the very beginning of the movie with the jewel heist. And then Bud Chopra is his twin who lives in New Zealand. Because of course we want the same funny actor to be in both scenes. He's a delight and I have no problem with it. he's a car guy. He's the one that makes their cars good enough to carry tons of gold.
Yeah.
And they also, by the way, they do the same thing that the 2003 does, where they get the van and they trap it in the city and they blow the road and the van falls through the road and they're able to get in through the subway and get the gold and everything like that. That's like, I don't know, maybe I'm. Anyway,
It does not matter.
It's essentially the same thing, and then we get a big Mini Cooper chase scene that is nowhere near as good as the Mini Cooper chase scene in 2003, which itself was nowhere near as fun as the Mini Cooper chase scene in the original. So it's kind of diminishing returns.
But
I'm getting to it. Then they get away, and it turns out they had swapped their Mini Coopers for another set, and the original Mini Coopers were completely remade using the gold that they stole.
they're made of gold.
So that's how they get past, like, there's a checkpoint they have to get past.
Uh-huh.
And the cars are carrying no gold.
Yeah.
And they get across the checkpoint and they scratch away some of the car, and it turns out the cars are made of gold. And
Gold
that's
cars.
that is how they get away.
In their gold
And
cars.
then there's a big song during the credits that is very catchy and very poppy.
Yes.
And not as hip hop as some of the earlier ones.
Mm.
Yeah, like the big hip hop song was like Nana meets Charlie when he gets out of. Does he get out of prison at the beginning? No, he gets back from the heist.
He gets back from the heist.
And she really likes him. And she has arranged, it's his birthday, so she's arranged for a bunch of very sexy white women to be at his place.
Yeah.
And then there's a big dance number on the beach. And I don't really understand. Like, she really likes him, but she's also willing to, like, get women for him
It's
for his birthday.
I don't understand
But
that.
she's got a real, like, hip-hop number.
Yeah, she's got a good song.
And it's good. Like, and here's the thing. From my limited exposure, Abhishek Bachchan is very good. He's no Amitabh Bachchan, but I bet he's heard that for years.
Yeah, poor guy.
Yeah.
I don't pity him. I'm sure he's fabulously wealthy.
This movie was a fucking delight.
It was great.
I have nothing else to say about it.
No, it was really fun.
Do you?
No.
It's so good. Anyone should find it. I want to do more Bollywood movies.
We should.
Let's see. Here's the thing we always do. We pick a thing and then we find out that there's a Bollywood version. We need to start the other direction.
Mm-hmm.
We need to look for Bollywood remakes and we need to do those specifically.
Okay.
Not all the time, but sometimes because they are fucking delightful.
Great.
Hey, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Would you like to do some quadrants?
Yes, let's wrap this up.
2003. Do you think they cared about the original movie, The Italian Job?
No.
I also agree with you that they did not care about it very much.
Are you drunk?
Yes, a bit.
Okay.
I think they wanted to make a fun movie.
Mm-hmm.
Was it successful?
Yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, it's fun. It was a fun movie.
Yeah.
Was it the most 2003 movie you've ever seen?
It was very much so.
It's a pretty 2003 movie.
Yeah.
Like Return to the King was 2003, but that's not nearly as much of a 2003 movie.
Not really the same kind of thing, even a little bit.
as The Italian Job.
Oh boy.
Starring only Marky Mark and not the Funky Bunch. Players, do you think they cared about the original being both Italian Jobs when they made it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
I think so too.
I think so.
I have a difficult question for you.
Yeah.
Was it successful?
I don't think we can judge it because it was made in an entirely different cultural context.
You're saying everything you're saying is very good and cogent and intelligent and mature, and I agree with you. But I'm actually going to stop you, and I'm going to ask you two different questions.
Yeah.
Outside of this apartment, was it successful?
No.
Inside of this apartment, was it successful?
We had a great time.
I enjoyed it a great deal. I thought it was great.
It was great.
Well, this has been Adapter Parish. If you'd like to find us online, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AdaptCast. And if you tweet about the show, don't forget to use the AdaptCast hashtag. You can join our groups on Facebook and Goodreads, and you can also find and follow me on Letterboxd. If you have anything to say that's longer than a tweet, you can always send an email to adapterparishcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the show, there are 3 great ways you can do it. First, tell a friend. Second, a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice would be greatly appreciated. And third, we've mentioned it, we have a Patreon. We have a special patron-only Slack group that has just been a ton of fun for the last month that we've been doing it.
It's delight.
Really, really fun. Like, we have our Facebook group, but like we're not spending as much time on there because Facebook as a whole is kind of toxic and awful. But this is a really great way to connect with us. We also have an entire bonus show that we're doing. We just released our 3rd episode of it, Adapter Parish Plus, and that is for patrons on patreon.com/adaptcast. Thank you so much.
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
That's the line.
Yeah.
It's from the trip.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.